Welcome to 2 cents short of a dollar, the show where we give our 2 cents and keep it 100. We're your hosts. That's Motiz. I'm Rue. Something on my mind today is the Dallas Mavericks. I know recently, you brought up to me just the way they've been sliding down the rankings. Of course, they made a big trade at the trade deadline. They brought in Kyrie Irving, but they're not even going to make the play-in this year. So, what are your thoughts on that?
It's a lot to unpack here, right? I think generally speaking, most people will probably just blame Kyrie, probably blame Luka. They bring Kyrie on board. Before bringing Kyrie on board, right? Let's just address the elephant in the room. They were what, in fourth place?
No. They were a little bit lower down than that.
Like February, because when did Kyrie come? Did he come February 10th? When did he come specifically? Do we know? I'll probably put it on here. I
don't remember exactly, but I know he came. They won 2 games in a row, and then they kind of got close to like the 4th place at that point. But before that, they were a little bit lower.
So they might have been 6 because
around 6
probably. Because I remember them being 4th, so they probably dropped to 6. They get Kyrie to go back down to 4th, and then shit goes left, right? Of course, there's injuries involved, right? Because I know there's times Kyrie didn't play, Luka didn't play, but nevertheless, that team that they have, of course, shit goes left, and then now we're at the point where they're not even in the plan, right? They lost to the Bulls. I'm not sure if you heard, but I think that they actually set an investigation upon that because it clearly shows that they're tanking.
Oh, right? I heard because I'm about to investigate with them.
Yeah, it looks like they're tanking. So my initial thoughts is like I'm disappointed. Yes, when Kyrie first got to the Mavs, I didn't really see it as a big deal. I initially thought, okay, that's a good addition to the team, but I didn't think that they were gonna kind of make too much noise in the sense that they were gonna kind of get far in the playoffs. But at the very minimum, I expected them to at least finish top 8 and make it to the playoffs. You get what I mean?
Yeah.
What were your thoughts about just the whole situation? And then I got a follow-up question. Who do you think is to blame for them not making the playoffs?
My thoughts, trash, disgusting, appalling, hate everything about it, right? Because here's the thing. You have a chance to make the playoffs, make the play-in to then have a chance to make the playoffs, and you don't even go for it, right? And you're doing this because you want to secure this number 10, this top 10 protected pick, right? Because due to the Jalen Brunson deal, I believe that's where they acquired the pick. If the Mavs in the lottery they finish top 10, they keep their pick, but outside of 11, it goes to the Knicks. So if the plan and the prioritization was to keep that and secure that pick, you should have been tanking a long time ago, right? Because there's still a chance now you don't make the play-in, and you don't necessarily have a top 10 seed locked up. You know what I mean? So it's like you should have been tanking if you were going to tank. Not that I support tanking, but make up your mind and stick with it, right? Just some random statistics to throw out there for you. You can fact check these, but I'm pretty almost like certain in these. Prior to the last game where Luka played 1 quarter and they rested like 5 starters, I think they're 3-1 since they got Kyrie Irving when just Kyrie plays. They are 0-2 when just Luka plays, and 5-11 when Kyrie and Luka play together. So
they're definitely like 5-11 because I remember looking it up and they were like 3-6 like about a month ago when they both played. So I'll fact check it, but I think you're spot on.
Right. So it may not be a great fit, or they may need more time, or the surrounding players may need to kind of shift. Like, remember what Miami Heat used to do? They just had their core, and they would just make everyone around them more interchangeable till they found the right fit. So I don't necessarily know exactly what the problem is there. I've seen a good amount of their games, but it's hard to really get a great sample size because so many moving parts. They're not always playing together. But I can't say it looks like a great fit because when Kyrie came, he kind of picked up the pace, and at times the Mavericks look great moving fast, right? But Luka kind of slows it down. So right there is already like kind of like an imbalance. So can they find a match in between to make that work? I don't know. But I just think just not going for the playoffs is crazy. One, because like I said, you haven't really put yourself in a great position to get a top 10 pick.
Right.
2, you have 2 superstars on your team. And how, unless the conversation was already had with them, how is that going to make them feel? You know what I'm saying? Like, yes, you could be trying to better the team by getting this pick, but
Right.
Luka might feel like, all right, this is a waste of my time. I want out. Kyrie is not contractually obligated to you after this season. So, how are they going to feel about that move you just did? I think you got to try to make the playoffs. The West is probably as wide open as I've seen it in a long time.
Right.
Denver may be able to prove me wrong, but Denver is giving me, I think, '08 Mavs vibes when they lost to the Warriors. I just don't really believe in Denver this year. I think the right team can get in there and give them problems.
Right.
I don't know that the Mavs are the right team, but I'm just saying you got to get in there and give it a shot. I don't think you can just forego your season like that when you haven't even done anything to really secure that pick. I hope they get the pick now for their sake, but if they don't, then you don't get the pick and you don't even make the play-in to try to go to the playoffs. That's horrible. That's terrible.
Yeah. It's a tough situation. I think the front office just decided, even if they made the play-in, they weren't confident that the Mavs were even going to make the playoffs. Right? That had to be their actual mental state at the time for them to start tanking. And we see this happen time and time again where we see front office make decisions that hinders the success of the team, right? And not have faith in the team. Of course, without us we already knew they were tanking. Jason Kidd just confirmed it, right? Mm-hmm. Now, I would say, do you think that other elements outside of the Mavs, there were other elements outside of the Mavs locker room, outside of the Mavs organization played a role in them losing, such as, initially when they were doing so well, the Clippers was battling injuries, right? Warriors weren't doing too good, and then once they kind of get a click in, now you're starting to see a shift in the West. Do you think that played a role in the performance of the Mavericks?
Yeah, I don't think they're a well-constructed team either. I don't think this is not how the roster should look to be built around Kyrie and Luka. Also, you said who do I think is to blame? I'm going to blame Luka and Kyrie. But I kind of think it was just the Mavs more than it was the other teams. I think it was the Mavs not figuring it out in time, right?
Okay.
Because I'm telling you, they barely missed the play-in by the slightest of margins. If those 2 games that Luka plays by himself without Kyrie, he wins, they're in, right?
Yep.
So it's by the slightest of margins. So I can only blame them for not just being able to win a couple more games. In this stretch where they really, really fell out, they lost to the Hornets twice.
Yes. Without LaMelo Ball.
Unacceptable.
Terrible.
Just blasphemy. Absolute blasphemy.
And then if you were tanking and let's say you lost those games on purpose, which I don't think you did, you should have been just resting your guys, because then you come back and play Sacramento, you're losing. Kai says, you know what, F this, I'm gonna take it upon myself. Kai brings it home. He goes crazy. You know what I'm saying? So everyone just wasn't on the same page of what we want this season to look like, what we're expecting to get from this season. And I think that's just a huge problem. I think they're going to clear house. I think Jay Kidd's probably going to get fired. I think the supporting cast is going to look completely different. I say that about Jay Kidd because I'm on Bleacher Report. And when I go to like the Dallas Mavericks community, what a lot of them are calling for is Jay Kidd's firing. I don't have a large enough sample size to say whether that's valid or not, right? Because I just kind of started keeping up with them after the Kyrie trade. I vaguely kept up with them before, so I can't tell you, oh, J Kidd's great or J Kidd's not. Me just from a casual standpoint, I thought he was good enough, right?
But he's a good defensive coach too. Like
I'm just telling you what like the Dallas Mavericks community is saying on Bleacher Report
to get rid of him.
So I just think it's going to look completely different next year. And I don't even know if Kai stays. And
that's what I was about to ask you. Do you think Kai stays? And do you think that ultimately is the reason as to why the Mavs kind of went in this direction? Because they felt like, we may not secure, Kyrie in the offseason.
It's a tough one, right? Because I think a lot of people aren't going to rush to throw money at him. So the money is going to be a big deciding factor. So what if they're the only team to offer him the money? Yes, he probably stays. But let's say it's a perfect situation. Let's say people say, okay, we're just going to look at the talent and we're going to like make an offer. If that's the case, I'm going to say he doesn't stay, but I'm going to ask you, what teams do you think he will go to? Which one realistically do you think he will go to that probably makes the most sense? And which one do you think he'll go to that'll probably just shock everybody because Kai's unpredictable?
Kai's unpredictable. Oh my God. If him going to I know on everyone's mind, Lakers is clearly a likely scenario for him come the postseason. A team that would probably shock everyone that he goes to will probably be Golden State Warriors. Not stop. Imagine that, right? But I would probably say, oh man, I would probably say if we went back to Boston. Of course, when you look at the logistics of it, that's probably an unlikely scenario, right? But just to answer the question, if he just miraculously in another world, if he had to choose a team that will shock everyone, I think it will probably be the Boston Celtics, in my honest opinion. But I don't know. I think it's a good chance that he'll probably re-sign with the Dallas Mavericks. I think Dallas Mavericks will probably throw him in the bag, and I think he'll probably just take it, right? I think the only opposition there is probably the LA Lakers. That's just my honest opinion.
Right.
How about you? Just to answer your own question, what team would be shocking if he went back to? Or
it's crazy because now I'm gonna pivot because the crazy thing, and I know it sounds wild, but I think Kyrie is exactly what Boston needs, right? He kind of had to leave for some of those guys to stretch their legs and become who they were gonna be, but now it almost seems like what they're missing is him, right? But because you gave that answer, I thought that was an excellent answer. But what I'm gonna say is, what will shock the world is the Phoenix Suns. Right? I like the CP3 is kind of getting up there in age, right? I think he might be out of contract after this year. KD and Kyrie played the entire league, and they still wanted to play together. They were just done with Brooklyn. So KD plays the good guy. Kyrie is the bad guy. KD gets sent to the place that he wants to be, and then Kyrie free agent and just goes there, and they keep playing together like they wanted to do the whole time. That's the narrative that I think will shock the world. The more likely situation, I'm gonna probably go to not pick the same team as you as well. The Clippers. I love him on the Clippers, actually.
Okay. Even with them having Russell Westbrook.
Well, I think they just have Russ for this year because they.
He was bought out.
He was bought out.
Buy out. Yeah,
and they just picked him up for this year. Yeah. I think if you have an opportunity to get Kai, you're gonna let Russ walk, right?
Yeah.
But of course, I think if they play together, they'll be great. But the tough thing is getting those three guys to be on the court at the same time: Kawhi, Paul George, and Kai, right? But absolutely. I do think he has the experience with Tyronn Lue. I think Steve Ballmer put the money up. I think he wants to win. He wants to establish that franchise. They're planning to build their own arena so they don't have to play at crypto. You know what I'm saying? So I think that's what make a lot of sense. The Clippers. Do I think he goes back to the Mavericks? My gut feeling, I'm gonna say no. Okay. My gut feeling, I'm gonna say no. I think he's gonna end up somewhere else other than the Mavericks. I think there's gonna be some turmoil with Luka after this season.
Yeah, absolutely. You can see it.
In
Luka's face. You can see it in his body language, his demeanor. After the press conferences when he speaks, like you could tell he's getting frustrated. And I think this is leaving a bad taste in the Kyrie's mouth.
Pause.
In the sense of like, things ain't really going how I expected it to go.
Yeah.
And we don't know what the chirp is in the locker room. We've seen time and time again how the media can infiltrate locker rooms and influence people's thinking. You get what I mean?
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure that people are looking to kind of, use Kyrie as a scapegoat in this situation and be like, Kyrie is a situation. Once they got him, now look what happened. And it's not necessarily a Kyrie issue here. You know what I mean?
Right.
So I would say, those in the comment section, leave a comment, definitely subscribe if you haven't. And let us know your thoughts. Why do you think, the Dallas Mavericks are looking in the shape that they're in, right? What caused it and who's to blame? Some of you might blame Kyrie, right? Some of you might blame Mark Cuban. Some of you might blame Luka Doncic, right? Some of you might just blame, God. Who knows, right? But just leave your comments and let us know what you think.
Yeah. And like, comment, subscribe. 2 cents short of $1, and we're out.